on behalf of APALI, we have our wonderful friend, our wonderful leader, former Congressman Mike Honda. Uh, and I want to just say this. Mike called me, you know. Mike, you remember that, right? A few weeks ago, and a little bit more, no, probably a little bit more than a few weeks, maybe over a month ago. Mike called me and asked me, "Have you read Maeley's book? It's really good. You know, you really should consider using it in your classes." And I told Mike, "Hey, I have the book. I am just reading it," and he says, "Yeah, it's okay." So here we have Mike Honda saying why he appreciates Maeley Tom and why she deserves, and maybe some of his experience. Please, Mike.
Thank you, Dr. Chang, and thank you for your work and all the things that you've done for the community and creating leadership among young people. And I think that what I want to say about Maeley and her book, and be sure you get it, because if you take up Dr. Chang's offer, you'll get a double wham, because you'll be able to understand more thoroughly what APALI does, what Maeley's all about, and where you are in your journey in becoming more of a civic leader. The Civic Leadership Award is my pleasure to present to Maeley. And here's what I want to say about Maeley. The title of her book is "I'm Not Who You Think I Am." And after I read the book, I started to say to myself, while I was reading the book, I didn't know that. And I've known Maeley since, before around the 80s, early 80s. I read about her in newspapers in Sacramento. There was two names. It was Maeley Tom and Georgette Imura. And I said, whoa, two women up in Sacramento. They're really making a name for themselves, and they're doing things. This is really impressive. And it wasn't until I got to the Assembly that I really started to see her full impact at that moment, because there's more to come. But what Michael Chang shared with all of you about the things that she's instigated, it's all very accurate, and I don't have to repeat it. But here's what I want to say about all the things that she's developed, is that she saw a need and she filled it. She saw a need and she went after to fill that need. And sometimes she went and did it without permission. Other times she did it with permission, but nevertheless, whatever she did, she saw a need and she started to fill it. And this is what you really call a person that's got a vision for not only for herself, but for her community, and what the community can benefit by the kinds of things that she's been able to put together. So in terms of leadership, if you read the book, you know that she had to practice certain inner strengths, reinforce her inner strengths, recognize who she is. And here the young people who are interns and fellows in the video, all of you are going through that process right now of knowing who you are, understanding who you are, and embracing who you are. And I think that you read the book, you'll start to understand the strength of accepting yourself and embracing yourself, and then making that a unit of instruction, a unit of modeling to other people, that they can also become the person that they want to, that they envision for themselves. So it's about, leadership is about practice, it's a life learning experience, and it's about sharing, and it's about taking chances and getting out there and doing what you see that needs to get done. So when I got to Sacramento as a assemblyman, she and Georgette had a greeting for me, and at the greeting there was a lot of people to say hello and congratulations. We're glad to see an Asian American here in Sacramento. But Maeley grabbed me by the elbow and said, "Come to the next room with me." And I said, okay. And there was Georgette Imara, her partner in crime. You'll know more about her if you read the book. But in front of the fireplace at this home where this reception was being held, the three of us were there privately, and Georgette and Maeley looked at me straight in the eye and says, "We're glad you're here, and we want you to be successful. And don't fool around." Meaning that, pay attention to what you have to do. And, politicians sometimes have a reputation of fooling around. And, I said, yeah, I'm fine. Thank you very much for the advice. But what really was, the real message was, we're watching you, we care about you, we want to help you. And we got your six, we got your back. And that's always been the case. And and Maeley and Georgette and Maeley were the kind of people that you never want to disappoint or let down. And so the years that I was in the assembly, I took part in the leadership program in the academy. And in the academy, when I participated and shared, I grew myself. And I kept on growing. I'm still growing. And after I read the book, I just said that this is a story that has to be shared with everybody, young people, young leaders, people who want to do something, or you really don't have to be into what we call political civic engagement. Civic engagement is just being active in your community and going beyond your own ethnic community and creating a network and coalitions with other groups. And I think that her willingness to tell her story and self-disclose her upbringing and the trials and tribulations and the setbacks and how she turned that setbacks into strengths is something that we all have to read and learn, internalize, and say that this is an example of what I can do also. And if I run into problems, I know that I will have the grit to be able to go past this setback or this problems or this challenge and be a better person for it. And not judge other people, but have compassion for the other people. So I think that, Maeley, I want to thank you not only for your friendship and your leadership and your guidance, but also for writing this book and sharing who you are. I've known you for a long time. I know you better because I was able to fill the gaps in our relationship. So, I recommend this book to everybody. And so with that, let me give the microphone over to Maeley, because I think I just talked too much, but I had to say the things I had to say in order for everybody else to understand how important she is and how important this book can be for you. Maeley?
Thank you. I want to thank APALI and thank Mike. It's especially meaningful to me to receive this award from someone who I totally love, admire, and give a lot of credit to in terms of empowering Asian Americans in the legislature. Until Mike came along, the Asian Caucus was struggling, but it was Mike Honda who made it count. And it was Mike Honda who made all of us count in the legislature. This is the award. I don't know if you can see it because it's glass board here, but it's so meaningful to me because it comes from APALI. And I salute APALI because it was one of the first organizations, thanks to the creative, the innovative Dr. Michael Chen, who understood that mentorship and leadership training was critical to building a pipeline to embracing leadership to our younger generation. So this award coming from APALI is so meaningful. And I had the chance to even participate as one of the lecturers in some of the early APALI forums. And so this is, thank you so much because it represents the whole mantra of who I want to be and who I am today. And it's represented by this award from APALI. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Maeley, for all you have done. And it's just wonderful to have you, and we have the opportunity of honoring you. Thank you so much for all. Next part, we're going to learn more about Maeley. And to do this, we have our popular assembly member, Evan Lowe, who happened to be both an APALI as well as a Capital Academy alumni. Actually, what I will also say is that not only did Mike Honda call me, but before Mike Honda called me, Evan called me. And Evan said, hey, have you read this book? Right? Have you read Maeley's book? It's really good. You know, I think APALI can get a lot if we have a fireside chat with her. And I'm willing to do it. And so without further ado, our assembly member, APALI alumni, Evan Lowe, please take it over.
Thank you. It's good to see all of you joining us here today. Maeley, you should be proud that there are over 100 attendees right now, to which I know that we are competing with so many different things going on, but they're here to help support APALI and to also hear from you. Of course, it's a great honor to follow in the footsteps of Uncle Mike. And just as we're talking about the different opportunities and the investments in the pipeline, I am a product of the work of so many of you. And to which I can recall, whether or not it's getting breakfast with Uncle Mike at 4th Street Bowl, that's his joint, that's his place in which it's difficult to have a conversation because he's saying hi to everyone at the same time and everyone says hello, and you can just expect that you'll be interrupted at least 5 times when having a breakfast meeting. But that's the life that we live in. But that I am a product, Mike Honda is a product of the work that you have done, Maeley, and that's actually how I met you, through Michael Chang when I was a student at De Anza College and as a student at APALI, as you recall. So we're excited to have the opportunity to talk to you and to get right into the book. So, but I just want to make a point to know for many of you that I also had a chance to look on Amazon, and of course it has a perfect rating from all of the various reviewers. It is perfect, and of course that's so Maeley. But I looked at it, 60 stars, and it's just a perfect rating, not like a 4.5 out of 5. It's not 4 out of 5. It's 5 out of 5, and of course that's you, Maeley, just perfect overachiever. But along those lines, your book is "I'm Not Who You Think I Am." So, dear Maeley, who are you?
Well, Evan, you don't know how much fun this is that you're interviewing me, because Evan is like really, literally like a son. So this is kind of a fun privilege that we have here to chat with each other. You know, I have had such a fortunate life of opportunities and of success and accomplishments in politics, and also at the same time being able to give a voice to my own community. And my start in life was somewhat unusual, somewhat rocky, in that I was born to parents of Chinese opera. In fact, a interesting note is that Bruce Lee's parents were in the same opera troupe as my parents. And as a result, my mother actually helped deliver Bruce Lee because they were neighbors in the same apartment. Of course, he reached a lot more fame than I did. But as a result, I grew up being farmed out to different foster homes and had different home environments as I was growing up, and pretty much on my own from the time I was 14, and was financially independent by the time I was 16. And was able to be the master of my own destiny, I guess, at a very early age. But you know, the childhood experiences really helped to shape my ability to create a life that I'm quite proud of. And because I was able to accomplish and fulfill and really meet the challenges and struggles of my professional career and of my personal life. And I wanted to really share those experiences to show that it's not how you start out in life, but it's how you end up in life that really counts. And how I was not perfect, the mistakes I made, what I did right, what I didn't do so right. And bottom line, I wanted the book to inspire others, to let them know that if I could do it with my rocky beginning, that other people can do it, because it's really not how you start out, but it's how you end up that really counts. And most of all, I was hoping that this book would help others to believe in themselves and to show that they can always be more, they could always learn more, and they could always become more. And that was kind of the message and the motivation of why I wrote this book.
That's wonderful, Maeley. You were kind enough to talk to me, and I had the benefit of talking in real time with you here in Sacramento at Frank Fat's, and you'd mentor me on a regular basis, and I'd say, I can't believe this happened, and you would say, calm down, you should think about these things, and it would get me so emotional, and you'd say, here, eat some more, eat some more. But when reading your book, you gave me an opportunity to do it, and I told you this. I paused and I said, I cannot believe, I just couldn't put the book down. And I said, I cannot believe what I am reading. I cannot believe there were so many incredible moments that you've highlighted in this. And again, I encourage everyone to take a look at and see what this is all about the personal experiences, because what you see here on this Zoom with incredible elegance, you really went through a lot. And the challenges that you faced as a woman in the state capitol. And of course, in your book, you referenced that during this time in which you were there, it was all male, nearly all white power elite. I would suggest that there are not terribly that many changes. Of course, we are making progress. But you referenced that of the struggles to find recognition, that inner strength, and learning the universal lesson that, in fact, politics is a bare-knuckled, ambitious, big world league politics, that in the end, family matters, and love of family and friends is the best measure of success. But in the beginning, you talked about the challenges faced as an API and a woman, and the challenges that you faced gaining the trust of a hostile boss. What was that like, being sort of the first and you're trying to find your place?
It's true. You know, when I joined the legislature, there were only about a handful of Asian Americans or people who look like me. So already you start as an anomaly. And then you have two other stereotypes you have to break. You're a woman in a very white male dominated environment, and you're Asian. So I found that, first of all, and I don't think things have changed too much. I had to just work twice as hard to prove that I was capable. That's one thing. Secondly, I had to overcome the stereotype that I was an Asian woman who people assumed I was very accommodating, I was very non-threatening, I was smart, and I was acquiescent, and I would not make waves. So perfect to have as a staff person. But to me, that wasn't enough. I really wanted to define myself to be more than just seen as an Asian woman in this very influential, powerful, dynamic state capital. So what I tried to do was to try to integrate myself. So with the culture of the capital. And I introduced myself to different groups. I participated in different activities so that they could see me as a part of their family, as a part of the capital power structure. so that I wasn't just an Asian woman. I was just a part of all of them. And it was hard at first, but the more I mixed in with all of the activities in the Capitol, the more they forgot that I was just an Asian woman. They saw me just as Maeley Tom, an individual. I think that as I rose up the ladder, there were challenges because the famous story that Michael talked about was that I had the chief deputy. I was the chief deputy administrative officer, #2 most powerful executive position at that time in the Capitol. And I was in that position for 7 years. And people were saying, Maeley, how lucky you are to be in that position. You're an Asian woman, you're so influential. So they were defining to me what success was, and I was accepting it. But then I trained 3 white males to be my boss because I was a chief deputy. And I started thinking if I was good enough to train 3 white males to be my boss, why wasn't I selected for the position ever? Why didn't they ever say to me, it's your turn? And so you learn in politics, you don't wait for your turn. You have to seek your turn. And so that's what I did. I actually went to Speaker Willie Brown, who's such a powerful, dynamic personality, and told my husband that morning, I either am going to come back without a job, or when I come back, I'm going to be the new CAO of the Capitol. And so when I went in to see Willie Brown, his first question is always, what's the problem? And I told him, I'm the problem. And he said, what is it? And I said, if I'm good enough to train 3 white males to be my boss, I should be good enough to be the CAO. And he stopped for 60 seconds and said to me, what took you so long? So with that, I broke the first glass ceiling in the Capitol, but also demonstrated to myself, and I hopefully to other women, that you have to take that risk and you have to ask. And I think that proved to me that for Asian women or for just women themselves, they need to learn to be assertive, and they need to learn to distinguish themselves. And the way I distinguished myself in the Capitol that helped me elevate into a leadership image is that I found that Asian voices were invisible in the Capitol. So I took my part-time responsibility to say, if I'm so lucky to be in the Capitol, to have such access to power, I need to help my own community have a voice here because they are invisible. And that's when my partner Georgette and I went out to create workshops, to recruit Asians to become staff members, to train interested Asian candidates to be able to be interested in running for office. So I think that the struggles I had as an Asian woman to be accepted helped me define myself, and hopefully helped other Asian women to understand you can define yourself to be beyond an Asian woman. You can define yourself to just be as capable and as intelligent and as accepted as everyone else. Not just as an Asian woman, but just to be the best you can be in a Capitol environment. And so I actually, when I became an executive, there were challenges where people would say, why she and not me? And you have to deal with those challenges of people sometimes wanting to see you fail. But if you focus on doing the best job you can, establishing the trust and integrity of your position by establishing a track record and by establishing relationships and networks so that you can show that you are just as competent as anybody else. I think those were the ultimate struggles and challenges that I was able to overcome.
Maeley, you make this seem so easy because we see you now, but back then there wasn't the notion of the workplace conduct unit. We did not have, there was not a Women's Staffers Association, an Asian American Staffers Association. There wasn't the API Legislative Caucus to fight and to vouch for you. There wasn't a Women's Caucus to fight and vouch for you. We did not have the advent of social media and publications on the Me Too holding public representatives accountable. Whereas now, we have that now. But back then, you didn't have the cavalry. You didn't have any of that. So again, you make it, you overcome adversity even without the cavalry. You did it on your own. You had the courage to fight and to be the chief administrative officer, which, by the way, for those watching, that's the key position to approve raises, offices in the state capitol. That's an influential position. So again, Maeley, without the infrastructures that we have today, it is still difficult for women to get into these powerful positions, much less when you were there. So again, how did you do it even without all that we have today?
Well, what I did was, and this is why I believe in cross coalition building. There were really, the only Asians at that time was March Fong Yu, who was a legislator, and Senator Al Song. But quite frankly, they were so busy struggling to establish their own identity as elected officials, there wasn't much time for them to mentor the small group of Asian staffers. And so what I did was I established relationships with other ethnic coalitions. My strongest mentor at that time was an assemblywoman called Maxine Waters. And I really established relationships with the Black Women's Caucus. I established relationships with the Latino legislators. And it was easier for me to relate to them because they were also ethnic minorities. So my second big mentor was Senator Art Torres. And then there was this amazing, powerful legislator, the late Assemblyman and Senator John Vasconcellos, who truly embraced diversity and took me under his wing. And then there were, other senior white legislators who also embraced diversity. So I didn't hesitate to ask them for help because I knew there was an affinity to help ethnic minorities succeed in the legislature. But this also speaks to the need to work cross coalition so that Asians would help African Americans, African Americans would help Latinos, Latinos would help other women and the gay community. It was that cross coalition of networks that really helped me, Kevin.
Clearly, you referenced that of Auntie Maxine, as we would we would reference and call her now today, in which we see her as a badass in Congress. And you referenced that in your book, to which you had some struggles, and she sought you out and said, came to you and had some good conversations. And so again, if you want to know about the snippets and about the dialogue and the conversation that Auntie Maxine had with our own Maeley, it's in the book and she highlights it there too. But you were very clear on empowering and a call to action for our AAPI community and also women, which is don't be afraid to ask for help. You referenced that. To claim your rightful place, to demonstrate unconditional allyship and coalition building, because we can't do this alone, which is very important. That was very important then, and it's very important now. Are there any unique differences, Maeley, between some of the challenges then and now, or are they pretty much the same? Do they still hold true?
I think there's still some same struggles that Asian women have to face in this capital. But, and also the time that I was there in the 70s and 80s, it was so sexist. So you had to deal with that sexist element. And there's always the sexual harassments and whatever, although I was pretty much protected from that because I worked for a very powerful boss who was very protective of his staff by the name of the late Assemblyman Lou Tappan. But it was still a very high sexual type of environment to work. I think that's changed today for women and for Asian women. And what the Asian women have today is exactly what you indicated. There's a larger number of Asian staffers and a larger number of Asian role models and Asian female legislators who form a network to help mentor a lot of Asian women so that they get a little head start and they have a sisterhood who helps them achieve and who helps them move up the ladder at a lot faster pace than I had to face being pretty much on my own. I mean, there's so many Asian women who have succeeded as legislators, as you can see. And yet there were also a lot of Asian staffers who now, to me, represent the Asian women's generations of leaders in the state capitol. We have like Mona Pasquill, who started out as a staffer, who became an acting lieutenant governor, and who was appointment secretary, and is now with Facebook. We have young Annie Lam, who started as an Asian staffer, and now she's become an amazing consultant who has a firm who represents 3 major institutions. Someone who I think represents this generation of Asian women is someone, Janie Fong, who's from this area, who started out with a state position. She was a trade representative for California, and now she represents East West Bank in Hong Kong. And then we have my own daughter, who started out with Oracle and now is the deputy director for broadband. These represent women who were so confident of their abilities, who went out and sought different career paths and are becoming role models for the next generation. I think also that Asian American women see themselves much more on an equal basis than ever before, that they take second place to none. And actually, I found that Asian women are doing better than Asian men in breaking the glass ceilings in the corporate sector, although we have a long way to go there. And I think that the mentorship role that Asian women have taken on to help develop a pipeline of future Asian women is a key to why we have so many amazing young women today who are climbing up the success ladder so much faster than I did in my generation. And I just think that hopefully they will also be able to create another generation of women who are going to become presidents, of women who are going to be CEOs. I see that as the next step.
Yeah, Maeley, you referenced that of the future of Asian Pacific Islanders in politics, that crystal ball about whether or not we might see the next United States senator or governor or president of these United States. Is that what you see in the near future?
I really do, Evan, and you are one of the ones I pin a lot of hope on in terms of our future leadership. I think our Asian Legislative Caucus has grown a lot since you've become a member, with David Chu, Banta, and Phil Ting, and Alan Mursucci, and so many others have really grown in finding your place to have clout and be relevant. I have to tell you, it was not easy for the Asia Pacific Legislative Caucus until Mike Honda joined. But now your generation, Evan, look at all of you. Now each of our members can claim chairmanships. Just take you, for example, Evan. You have a chairmanship of one of the most important committees, Business and Professions. You are chair of the Tech and Innovation Caucus, chair of the Gay Caucus. Yeah, I mean, you have so many chairmanships under you, but it just shows that our Asian Caucus members now are seen as leaders. They hold leadership positions in the Capitol, and they're chairing very important committees. Phil Ting chairs the Budget Committee. So we have arrived. I think the future is there for us to grasp. I think that Asian Americans are showing in politics. We have two amazing females who are now holding state office. We have Fiona Ma and we have Betty Yee, who holds such respect by being our state controller and state treasurer. And then the future, look at what we have happening just this year. We had John Chung, a profile in courage, who said he gave up 4 years of safe term as treasurer. But you know what he said? It's time for an Asian American to run for governor. We have Andrew Yang, who said, you know what? I'm not going to wait to be asked. I'm going to run for president. And what the two of them demonstrated was that, you know what? Asian Americans are no longer fighting for a seat at the table. Asian Americans now feel they should be at the head of the table. So our future is so bright with all of these movements of what's happening to Asian Americans. Just today, the governor signed AB 979, which says Fortune 500 corporate boards now need to find room on their corporate boards for ethnic minorities. And Asian Americans are counted as one of those ethnic minorities that should be able to find seats on Fortune 500 corporate board seats. And I think that this shows that Asian Americans are finally reaching that pinnacle. We're no longer seen as waiting to be heard. We're no longer seen as just model minorities. We are now being seen as leaders, as equal to all who can qualify to be leaders of this country, of the state, of corporate boards. We're there. We have to be there, and we have to seek it, and we have to fight for it. But we are arriving, and thanks to people like you, Evan.
Well, we stand on your shoulders, Maeley. I know I can be very heavy, but know that we are all standing on your shoulders and continuously building off the work of individuals like yourself and seeing the trajectory of people like Mike Honda and so many others. But I just want to make a reference that we still have a long way to go. While we have a record number of Asian Pacific Islanders in the California State Legislature, currently none of the Democratic members are women. So let that be a call to action that we still have much work to be done. We have made much progress, but so much work needs to be done. Just mainly a few comments and references of words in the chat box that it's high times that women take their rightful place, and powerful words. Thank you for being a pioneer, an inspiration, and this is precious advice. So please know that your time is valuable, and we are so grateful to the work that you do. Please go out and take a look at that book, get your own book, comment on it, make sure that we continually have that A+ rating on Amazon and other places. But thank you so very much, Maeley. You're an inspiration, and I look forward to sharing a meal with you in the very near future. So thank you for joining us. We'll turn it back over to Michael Chang.
Thank you, Evan.
Thank you, Maeley.
Thank you so much, Assemblymember Lowe and Maeley Tom, our honoree, for sharing those insights. You could tell how everybody has been just energized. So thank you. We'd like to bring you back again, maybe in the future, for more in-depth